Of course, I assumed that everything was very simple, that nothing could be easier than foaming the sides and sills, but with it, I made many mistakes. Now I will tell you about them and show you. Before applying the foam, it is best to moisten the surface so that the foam adheres better. This did not help me, but nevertheless, the manufacturer recommends moistening. To hold the foam in place, it is essential to use a frame. The foam itself is very light, and a cardboard frame will suffice. In an emergency situation, I discovered a new type of frame. The next day, I changed my mind about using foam on the wings. I decided to carefully remove it from there. I wasn't worried about the scratches, because everything would be repainted. For flat surfaces, I will definitely use these leaves. And where the bumper is, I will foam there because those are hard to reach places and everything needs to be filled. For such work, make sure to buy a good quality knife. Mine, although not the cheapest, had a blade that kept falling out, which annoyed me because I didn't have a spare. I had no idea that the foam could catch fire so easily, and the heater was about a meter away from this foam. Well, I was surprised, to say the least. Probably even petrol wouldn't have ignited at such a distance as this foam did. I was sure the canister had caught fire because there was nothing else that could cause this foam to ignite, even though the heater was at a distance. Not directly, so there was no contact with the fire at all. It was at a distance. Some gases were drawn in from there. I was simply stunned, to put it mildly. After buying more foam, I started all over again. But this time, it was a bit cooler in the garage. I decided not to make the bumpers right away, but to do them later, after I finished the wings and sills. Working with fiberglass was very easy for me, especially by the third time. It sets quickly. When it doesn't set, it turns into a jelly-like state in which it no longer impregnates the fabric, making it brittle. Well, the most enjoyable part was shaping the form. Firstly, it's just very simple. Secondly, you start to see the car transform into what you envisioned. In the end, there was so much rubbish that I finally decided to clean up. But it seems the car didn't like it very much. After almost draining the second battery, I decided to push it myself. But that didn't work out for me either. So, I decided to use alternative methods. After cleaning foam, I treated the edge with filler. Fixed the problem with the fuel tank cap. I moved on to the other wing. The filler ran out, and it is quite expensive, so I decided to use regular plaster for the other wing. By the way, plaster is very pleasant to work with until it completely dries. On the left, I forgot to remove the rubber zipper, but better late than never. Foam and polystyrene must be treated with glue, or something similar to glue, to prevent contact with resin, otherwise it will simply corrode it. While the glue was drying, I dealt with the car's malfunction. It turned out that petrol was leaking through the fuel return plug, even though the gauge wasn't at 0. After replacing the hose and tightening the clamps, I started pouring in petrol. After drying my watering can from the remaining water, I added petrol. I added as much as was possible with my watering can. I mixed the resin. 1 liter covers 1 wing. You have to do it quickly, under 5 minutes, otherwise it starts to thicken. If you are drilling near the fuel tank, ensure safety. And always wear safety goggles. I also actually made this thing. It's basically the same as what I applied to my car. I did this to check how strong it is overall. I decided to test it with special equipment. For comparison, I placed regular plywood next to it. Look at how the foam has corroded. Now I will have to putty all of this and level it out. I would have leveled it anyway, but here I need to fill these holes. I will be painting soon. I will choose an interesting color. Perhaps it will be a combined color, 2 colors. I will paint it and then drive around the city, filming all the movement, how it looks and generally how it drives, and so on. Now I will be using finishing putty to smooth out all the imperfections and start painting. And by chance, I came across this radiator grill from a home radiator. The mesh structure here is exactly what I was looking for, the cells themselves. After a trip to the plumbing store, I found a suitable grill. It looks decent, but the modification ahead is going to be tricky. It's time to say goodbye to my gas cylinder because it fell the other day, and when I drove into the garage, I noticed the smell of gas. Checked with soap, it turns out that where the thread with the fibers is, gas is leaking. And I didn't release all the gas so that the technician could see the leak. And with a piece of rubber and electrical tape, I fixed the leak. I sealed it and there seems to be no smell, so I will take it for repair. Let them see if it is repairable, then they will either replace or insulate it. That's fine, or I'll throw it away. Regarding the grill, I decided not to install such a grill because it doesn't look very good. More precisely, it leaves large gaps between the bonnet and the radiator grill. I decided to take regular Lada 2106 grills and solder them together to create a solid grill. And if the headlights are visible, if these glass pieces shine too much, then I will tint them with a special varnish. Buying radiator grills, I started soldering. It is preferable to use a heating knife without plastic elements. The room where plastic soldering is done should be very well ventilated. I did all this in my room and found another solution to protect myself. While my Soviet soldering iron was heating up, I decided to check how effective my smoke protection was. After filling the gaps with the glue gun, I proceeded to mount the radiator grill. However, a small problem arose. The headlights were protruding and preventing my solid grill from fitting. I decided to adjust them for clearance. Later, I decided to install them from the bonnet, shining from inside. The radiator grill looks better. It was time to remove the rear bumper. It does not come off easily, so I decided to cut it off. It is only attached by 2 metal brackets. To be honest, I'm really fed up with these small circles that end every 2 minutes. I decided to take a proper large disc straight away to finish the bumper and the exhaust. I also decided to shorten the exhaust. but soon it stopped working. It turned out the bumper is attached from the boot, and it's not difficult to unscrew it.